We're from the town with the great football team. We cheer the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey guys, welcome to Pittsburgh. My name is Anthony. I really appreciate you joining me for another one of these sports card collecting / investing / flipping videos. With me, as always, I got my buddy Nate Everyday I'm Hustling. You guys don't know Nate. He has a really awesome YouTube channel. He specializes in sports cards and he has some great content out there. So I highly suggest you go and subscribe to his channel. I will have a link to his channel down below. Also, Nate and I are doing some collaborations with Gate City Picker / Gate City Sports Cards, and we're doing YouTube sports card auctions. So every Sunday afternoon, we've been rotating our channels. We're going to have so many awesome cards, everything from slabbed cards all the way to raw cards, singles, lots, and even some sealed product, guys. So there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. So make sure you come out. But guys, without further ado, we're here to talk about some sports cards today. I want to talk about some cards that have been gaining steam. Nate, what are some cards that you've seen take big jumps just in the past few days?
A lot of it's been, to my knowledge, that I've been looking at, has been players that have made some pretty decent, pickups during the season. Like you see the Chris Paul trade and some other guys. So teams that normally didn't get the love, I would say last year, they probably should have gotten, or some of the players, now that they have some different pieces to definitely help them push out a lot of different, better stats in scoring or rebounds or whatever the case may be. Those are the guys I'm looking to get, or some guys that just haven't had the attention. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that get kind of forgotten about, and the prices kind of just float around at the low level, and that's where I make a lot of good money picking up pieces here and there.
Definitely. Who's been the big gain for you lately? Like, who's been the guy making you the most money?
I'm going to probably have to go with Trae Young. Trae Young is probably one of the hottest cards that I've been picking up ever since I started collecting in March. And, with him and Luka kind of being the hype of the league at that time, it was pretty easy to pick up those guys. And Trae wasn't playing, so his cards were relatively cheap, especially like his Donruss and stuff like that, which still gets love. Really? Just not that Prism love, but it still gets that love. So I picked up, I think, 10 or 15 of those for like 10, 15 bucks a piece. So those are on the way to PSA as we speak.
Beautiful. Yeah, I definitely got some Trae stuff in PSA, and I got some in SGC right now too. But I just happen to be, lucky, and the Trae stuff I have is like literally all doubled from the end of last season, which is a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and he hasn't even got really a chance to show stuff yet. I mean, he had a great game. His first game having 37 points.
Yeah.
And, with a great team, a lot of great pickups during the offseason with free agency and stuff like that, too. So they are definitely a team to watch moving forward.
He's so dynamic, too. Like, that guy can put the ball in the hoop from anywhere on the floor.
Here, it kind of reminds me almost of AI in a way because of his body type. He could score from anywhere on the floor. He's not scared to go in the lane. Being a smaller guy like that, he has tons of heart. So definitely a great player to pick up. I just hope his defense can add on as time goes. But as teams get better records and things like that, they tend to play a little better defense because they're playing for a lot more at stake too. Yeah. So hopefully that will come hand in hand with him.
I would say another guy that's been really seen some nice gains since the season started, and he's literally come out just like a bull in a china shop, is Ja Morant, man. Like, that guy is like a grown man. He's basically coming out saying, hey, look, it's not a fluke that I was the rookie of the year. I'm that dude. And he doesn't even have Jaren Jackson yet, man. Like, He's playing like that without like literally his best weapon. Yeah, like I really think Ja Morant's prices are going to continue to kind of just soar, as long as he stays healthy, like any of the guys we mentioned on this list, barring injury, we think you're going to have some great success with. And Ja was one of those guys where all off season, it was like, guy makes rookie of the year, and guess what? It's off season. So all of the prices start to dip. So it was like, of course I'll come in and, pick up this stuff at, like 30 to 40% less than what it's actually worth, So he was one of those guys that I went heavy after this off season, and, already it's kind of paying dividends just within the first 2 games he's played.
Oh yeah, I've picked up a lot of his stuff. I think I picked up a red, white, and blue Prism for $80 last year. I couldn't believe, like you said, his prices just kind of stalled and kind of went down. I mean, that's kind of the nature of how things go when you're not playing anymore. in the NBA, like your season's basically over, you kind of get forgotten about. But believe me, I didn't forget about that guy. So definitely picked up some of his stuff, and the stuff I do have, if it needs graded, it's definitely going its way to PSA.
One guy I'd kind of like to pick your brain on, Tyler Hero. He's a guy that both of us are pretty heavily invested in, guy that we both kind of believe in. One thing that I'm wondering is, what do you think it's going to mean for his card prices with them playing him a point guard? Now, I know that Kendrick Nunn did not play in the first game, so he wasn't available for starting at point guard. And Dragic, they kind of like having him coming off the bench. Do you think this is going to be kind of like a long-term thing, or do you think it's more tied to Kendrick Nunn's availability? And where do you kind of see Tyler Hero's like second-year development going?
From my perspective of him is just keep growing his offensive game. Keep being the type of person he is. He has that kind of dog in him where he can definitely get down and play some defense when necessary and stuff like that. So I was kind of surprised of his scoring output. I thought he would do a little bit more, especially with Jimmy Butler only playing a very limited amount of minutes during the game. I thought they were going to lean on him more for scoring. But from what I've seen, if Robinson has the hot hand, they're going to let him basically, sit out the three-point line and just torch people all day. So
definitely,
you'll probably see his numbers and Hero's numbers, like points per game, kind of fluctuate depending on who has the hot hand. But I hope to see Tyler Hero in the 20s, by the time the season's over for his average, because I think that will get him closer to Luka type prices. I don't think that he'll meet that unless his game really takes off a little more than what I'm already hoping for. But he is young. He's definitely has a lot of skills. So a lot more to see yet of Tyler Hero. So
definitely. You think his prices are going to see a nice jump this year?
Depending on how the experiment at point guard goes, it could be they kind of stay stagnant, or they can go up a little bit more. And I think a lot of that has to do with their overall team success and his scoring too. So as long as he makes some type of stride, which him going the starting lineup is just a bump in itself. So
yeah,
that should definitely help him out. He'll play a little more minutes, should see a little more productivity off than coming off the bench. So I think that has kind of like the tie-in, like how is that experiment going to work? Is it going to be Jimmy Butler kind of bringing the ball up, and then he has the two guys kind of swing off of, and he's going to be like LeBron making the plays? Or is this going to be like everyone kind of eats, everyone kind of scores? There's no 1-2 punch type of combination like you see in LA or with the Clippers and different teams like that.
One guy that's really come out looking just killer this season thus far, man, is Zion Williamson, bro. Like he's slimmed down. You know what I mean? He's not looking like Sherman Klump anymore.
Yeah.
That dude like straight up's looking like a young Sir Charles this year, man.
Towards the end of the year last year, I was worried. I'm not gonna lie. He was one of the first people I went deep in and heavy in because of course all the hype and the athleticism just jumps off the page. So he's a special type of player, bar none. But to see him go out yesterday with Brandon Ingram, and those two guys are really going to have to really score a lot of points for them to be productive this year. They seem to miss on a couple of their picks from last year, or at least they haven't shown enough to start or play. They're running basically a 2-point guard setup, which is like the opposite of the Heat. So between the other three guys, you have Zion, Brandon Ingram, and Steven Adams. Those three guys are going to have to eat up probably like 80% of their scoring to be able to have good games and wins. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I project them going to make a trade maybe for Bledsoe or maybe Lonzo, because Lonzo didn't sign an extension. See what kind of things go from there. But yeah, I'm definitely hyped on Zion. I'm glad I didn't drop any of this stuff, and his prices. Yeah, couple of cards I've seen almost doubled for what I paid for them. So definitely a happy camper over this way.
Yeah, I saw a Gem Mint 10 going for in like the $900 to like the $1,000 range.
Yeah,
it was like wow, yeah, and we're only 2 games in. So imagine if this guy makes the All-Star game. Like imagine where his prices go.
And just think, like before the season started, his prices for his PSA 10 were in the 450s, 400 range, which is crazy to think. But a lot of people were having doubts. Even I was having doubts. So I don't, doubt anybody who sold stuff right away because of kind of how he kind of turned out in the bubble. It was just a bad circumstance, I think, for him.
So let me ask you this: name one guy right now that people aren't necessarily going out and picking up that you think they should pick up now before he balls out this season?
I was making a little list of like players that I think they're going to turn up, and one guy that made it on my list was Aiton from the Suns. I just think that Chris Paul moving that situation and the way that Steven Adams played with him in OKC, he's that traditional point guard. He's going to score some, he's going to pass, but he always thinks pass first. So I think he's going to have a good year along with Devin Booker, and those guys out in Phoenix are going to have a pretty good year, I believe, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely. Aiton's one of those guys that's pretty high up on my list as well, that I think that people definitely need to grab before he kind of erupts. Another one for me, it's just kind of like a selfish one, and this is kind of a little more low key, but you can still get Garland super cheap, and that's even like with him gaining like a good $30 just after the first game. You know what I mean? Like you can still get graded Darius Garland stuff reasonably cheap. So, you know what I mean? Like, depending on how I'm not saying the Cavs are going to the playoffs or they're going to be like the greatest team in the NBA. Like I pray that they will be, but I mean, I think that he hasn't shown enough of what he is or what he can be, and you can still get him pretty cheap. So I think, you know, if he continues to play the way he is, I could definitely see him doubling or tripling up this year, like price wise. So the one question I have for you now that we've seen the guy that you think everybody should pick up, who's the one guy you think everybody should sell like as soon as possible to try to get the money before their prices tank?
I'm not a fan of how things are going in Golden State right now. I'm not a huge Steph Curry fan right this second. Not saying they can't turn it around. I mean, we've seen streaky shooters like him do it all the time, but I think him losing Clay for the year again is just going to basically keep them kind of at status quo. And the status quo is probably out of the playoffs. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, they could easily make the 8th seed or 7th seed, depending on how their year goes. And Wiseman, who's shown range from 3 as well, hit a couple yesterday. I just feel that there's not enough there. I don't think Kelly Oubre or Andrew Wiggins are the answers there. They tried to bring in some talent to surround the other guys with, but with Clay gone, I think that ship is kind of sailed because of it just makes it a lot harder having a smaller point guard / shooting guard like Steph kind of do it all. You know what I mean? And you know, they really have to be able to get production from all 5 of their guys to really have a great year, in my opinion.
Yeah. So do you think this hurts his short-term value more so than his long-term value?
Yeah, it definitely hurts his short-term. I'm not saying go pick up his rookies, but I'm not saying sell his rookies. It's I mean, it's almost like a dealer's choice type thing, like pick your poison, because you know, his stuff. He's by far one of the best shooters that the league's ever seen. But you know, players at certain ages, like where he's at, they tend to start coming down a little bit in their production and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And then plus Clay coming back, they invested and signed him to a long-term contract last year when they knew he was hurt and having the rehab, and he got hurt again. So it just kind of puts their franchise on a hold or a pause until that situation kind of gets figured out.
So my last question for you, Nate, is this is something I ask you all the time when I'm getting ready to send you cards to go to PSA. So guys that you think right now should just be stashed, they're not yet to a point where they're gradable, but they're not yet valuable enough to where you should be selling them on eBay just raw. Like, what are those guys that right now you're just sticking in a box and you're waiting for something to happen with them?
Probably my number one guy for that would probably be Horton Tucker, man. I really like what I see out of him. He's getting minutes, which I didn't think he was going to get as much. Watching a couple other different podcasts and stuff, they were trying to say that he was only going to play around like 4 minutes a game. But I've seen him come in and play and do some things. And, you know, just a really, really good defensive player. You know, with his reach, it really makes it hard for people to kind of go around him. And he is definitely going to be a player that rebounds. And if he can get a shot right, you know, I think possibly with how things go with the Lakers and they're signing everybody to these extensions and everything, he could be a valuable piece off the bench or possibly one day even start as their wing, maybe.
Definitely. I've been impressed with the fact that he's gotten as many minutes as he's gotten as fast as he's gotten them. Because like we were saying, like who knows if he's going to even get those minutes, unless something happens with Kuzma getting moved or whatever, since his contract was going to be up. But then Kuzma got re-signed, and it's like, okay, well, is this dude going to get the minutes? And he's still getting them, even with Kuzma getting that contract. So it's been nice to see, and LeBron believes in him. So hopefully he'll take that next step. And, guys like you that have the silver Horton Tuckers just kind of stashed in a box somewhere, hopefully you'll come up on a nice little payday someday.
That's the thing that's nice about some of these players that you don't expect to be, the Zions and Jaws of the league. You can kind of stash those guys away. And then in a year or two, or maybe 6 months, depending on how some of these players play or how many cards you do have, you go through and you look through the box, you go, okay, I need to keep an eye on this guy's cards because, they're starting to go up in value. Horton Tucker played 7 minutes versus the Lakers, which isn't a lot, but he was 1 for 1 for 3, 1 for 2 from the field, and had 5 points in 7 minutes. So definitely filled up the score box just about as good as you can for 7 minutes for his production. So I just think he's going to be I don't think he's going to be like a superstar of a player. I just think he's going to be just like a very solid basketball player, which should have some upside.
But yeah, Nate, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some knowledge with us today, man. Is there anything you'd like the people at home to go and check out on your YouTube channel?
Just definitely come over, check out the channel. We're doing card stuff all the time, different pickups. We're doing group submissions, and definitely check out our Facebook group with me in Pittsburgh. You can buy, sell cards there. You can get in contact with us.
Awesome. Well, again, Nate, thank you so much for joining me. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, God bless.